Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Kelsey Wiest, and I'm part of the Strategic Solutions and Learning Management team here at Hawks. In today's 15-minute webinar, I am going to walk through just a brief introduction to our Question Builder tool. This tool allows you to build your own custom content to add to the content that you already use within your Hawks platform. Before I get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. If you have questions throughout this 15-minute webinar, you should see a Q&A box at the bottom, I believe, center of your screen. Feel free to chat those in throughout the webinar as questions come up. I'm going to reserve some time at the end to go through your questions. Additionally, since this training series is intended to be short and quick overviews of some of the tools that we offer within the platform, I do just want to point out our blog. We have hosted several additional webinars on our Question Builder tool specifically. Whether you're a math instructor or a humanities instructor, we actually do have several webinars posted on our blog. The two that you see here under the training webinar category are both lengthier overviews of our Question Builder tool. So if you do need additional details, you can feel free to reference these blogs. Today, I'm going to show you the basics of how to get started with the Question Builder tool and some of the main features that exist within it. So again, we do have several other resources if you want to reference those. You can find them on our blog or always reach out to your training and support representative. To get started with our Question Builder tool, you are going to be logging into your Teach account, and under the Assignments tab, we do have the Question Builder tool located on the left side. You can select to open that Question Builder tool, and it will, I'm just monitoring here. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger just in case you can't see this. So hopefully this will help. So within the Teach account, you're going to log into Teach and access the tool from the Assignments tab. Down toward the bottom is the Question Builder. The Question Builder tool will actually open in a new tab, so just be aware that this is a new tab of my browser. And in order to get started using the tool, if you haven't used it before, the first thing that you'll need to do is actually create a folder. This will help you organize the questions that you choose to create and supplement our materials with. I am going to create a folder labeled Additional Discount Questions. You can create as many folders as you'd like here. This allows you to organize the questions that you're actually creating. So if you're creating several different types of questions or a wide variety to supplement questions we have, or in addition to the questions we offer, my best recommendation is to create folder names that indicate the types of questions you're going to find within that folder. So for instance, if you're creating several discount questions, you'll want them all within this folder. If you're going to be creating questions to supplement lesson 4.3, you can create a folder and name it 4.3 additional questions. The reason being is that when you go back to actually find and select these questions to add to both your lessons or tests that you create using our Test Builder tool, the way that you'll actually navigate and find the questions is by referencing these folder names. So creating folder names that are representative of the questions that are within them is really helpful. Once you have your folder created, you can use this create option to actually go ahead and get started creating a brand new question. Since I'm zoomed in here, it might look a little different on my computer than what it will look like for you, but just keep in mind that the functionality is the same regardless of the type of question that you're actually going to be creating. Just to kind of give you some navigation information here, there is a question header that you can choose to include in your question if you're building a question that references tables or images, that perhaps it's a multi-step question and you want that table or image to be visible on every step of the question. Those items are really good to include in the question header just so that the students can see it as they're moving through the different steps of the questions that you create. The question statement is the only area that is required. This would be the actual question that you're creating. And then we do have several different types of questions that you can create within our question builder tool. Those are all controlled under the answer area. So at the top area is where you'll actually enter the question itself. And then below is how you control the answers that as the students submit the questions. It does default when you open this tool to multiple choice. That is one of the types of questions that you can actually create. If you select this drop-down menu, you'll see that we do have several other options available. So if you prefer to create free response questions, these would be questions that you're asking a question, the student is answering something mathematically in a box of free response. We do also have open-ended questions. This would be a question where the students are writing some sort of additional verbiage for you, where perhaps the question response itself is varied and you would be hand grading these questions. That's an indicator of open-ended questions. And then we do have two additional types of questions. These are typically used in humanities classes. Click to select is typically a type of question where the students are presented with a sentence and they have to select something within the sentence that meets the question parameters. Additionally, click to insert. These are typically used for grammatical sentences where you want to test the student's knowledge on, any number of grammar and mechanics type questions where you're presenting them with a sentence and they can insert questions or commas or semicolons where it's needed. For today, I'm going to focus on multiple choice and free response. We'll start with multiple choice just because this is the most straightforward. The question that I'm going to actually be asking, I'll just go ahead and enter my question into the question statement area. I'm going to be asking a question. The discount on a refrigerator was $190. The discount was 21%. What was the original selling price of the refrigerator? So this is a question that I'm asking of my students. All you really need is a question statement. I copied this over from a Word document and it was bolded, so you can bold, underline. There are a few additional options to customize the text as it's visible here in the question statement area, but you don't have to use any of these bold, italics, underline options. Additionally, if you wanted to, you have a few, I don't need it for the purposes of this question, but you do have the option of adding in images. So if you were creating a question where you wanted to reference a picture of a graph that you've used in the past, you can add that in to the question statement using our image option. You do also have the option of adding in tables. So if you want data to reference within the question and you want it to appear in a table format for your students, the table option is a great way to include that data. The table allows you to specify how many rows and columns and what's included within each. And whether the students can actually copy that data. So if you're building a statistics question, you can allow the students to copy that data so that it's pastable into Excel, for instance. We have some special character options. So if you needed to insert any sort of special characters, there's several options here for you. And then we do also have a variable manager and an expression builder. So if you were building any sort of mathematical question that referenced different mathematical expressions, so as simple as fractions or more advanced as things like radicals or, logarithmic functions, anything that would reference some sort of mathematical expression that you're building into your question, you can use the expression builder to build. The formatting that's behind our expression builder is called LaTeX. I might be mispronouncing that, but it is a language that allows you to build mathematical expression. The biggest benefit that we have here in this expression builder, if you're not familiar with LaTeX, is that we do have some handy quick variables that you can actually, or quick expressions that you can use and insert into your expression builder. So if you are unfamiliar, you can use these quick tools to actually insert expressions. And it does actually display a preview as you're building the expression. So something simple, again, that's not related to this particular question that I'm building, but just for example purposes, if I were to build a question, x squared plus x cubed, I can use the variable or the expression builder to build this. So I'm going to type x and actually select my exponent to insert it. What it does is insert the area in which you need to include the actual expression itself. So if you are entering an exponent, you always use open and closed brackets to insert expressions. So you're going to insert the square within the brackets themselves. So you can see as you're kind of building this, it does give you that preview so you can track your progress of entering this particular expression. If I then wanted to move out of the expression that I'm building and add a secondary one or an additional expression to this specific question, I can simply move my cursor outside of those brackets and it allows me to add additions here. So plus x, and I'm going to add an additional exponent cubed. If I then wanted this entire expression to be over, say, a fraction, or if I wanted this to be over 1, this would also allow you to add that expression over 1. My biggest suggestion when using Expression Builder is if you did want this to say x cubed plus x, or x squared plus x cubed over 1, you're starting with the largest expression first and then working right toward the smaller one. So if I were to want to add a fraction with over 1 to this, instead of adding it to the end of this expression, this would just add an additional fraction to the actual end of the expression that I'm building. So if you wanted this whole expression to be over 1 or 2, what you'd actually want to do is start with that fraction expression first and build your exponent expressions within the fraction. So this is just the shortcut for creating a fraction. And if I were to just add something in there, you can kind of see what it would look like. So now if I wanted to add my square back to the expression above the line here, it allows you to do that and kind of navigate between the expressions themselves. Again, because this is something that is a little bit more advanced, if you want additional detail of the expression builder, we can schedule, always happy to on the training team, schedule trainings that kind of cover this in more detail, or you can reference those training webinars, but this is just a brief overview of that. I'm gonna click cancel here, get back to my question itself. So we also do have the option of entering multiple choice. I'm gonna get back to the answer. By default, it is preset to multiple choice. So if I had 3 answers that I wanted students to select between, I can enter those answers here. So this first one would be 904.76. My second answer would be to this question, $1,000. And the third answer, I'm going to have the student select between is $1,411.76. I believe it defaults to 4. So if you are only having 3 choices for the students, the last answer you can simply delete using the delete option. If you are creating something that is multiple choice, you do need to mark one of these answers as correct. To do so, you select the incorrect button to toggle it to the correct answer, and that will mark it as correct and give it 100% credit, meaning the other 2 answers that you're adding are incorrect. You also do have the option, as I said, of making free response questions. So if you prefer to create something free response, you can toggle between free response and then just enter the answer that should be correct in the answer box below. The last thing I do want to share here is the ability to create a question that has variables. So you do have the option of creating questions that have variation. So if you wanted this question to regenerate in perhaps 1 or 2 other versions so that the students aren't getting the same exact version of this question, our variable manager at the top that's indicated by this icon allows you to do that. My best recommendation when approaching variable manager is to plan the question out on paper first, so you know the variations of the question that you want to actually include. You can also use Excel to copy and paste that data into our variable manager. So if you've got an Excel table that has the different variables that you're referencing, in this case, the variables in this question will be the refrigerator price in dollars, the discount in percent, and the actual answer itself, because the answer also has to be a variation to match the actual variety that you're infusing into the question itself. So in this example, if I want these two items in my question to be varied depending on the student that answers it, I can use the variable table to enter in the different variety that I want to include. I've got some different versions in Excel already built, so I'm going to just copy and paste those directly from Excel. So for reference, column A is referring to that price in dollars, column B is referring to that discount in percent, and then column C is actually the correct answer. So as I insert these variables, all three of those will change depending on what the student actually answers. You do have to name your variable in the event that you're using multiple different variable managers for one question. So I'm going to save changes, and then you can go ahead and insert into the question itself. So if I want this to actually modify and give me variation, I'm going to delete the actual number itself here and use my variable manager to enter in the variable. We're going to reference column A because, as I mentioned, that is the column that refers to the price in dollars. So it's already selected on column A. We'll select insert. So now you can see that discount A exists here. Now in this second area, we're going to go back to our variable manager and add column B. That's the discount in percent, and select insert. And in the answer, if I went to free response, this is where we're going to insert the actual third variable. And you can use the variable manager here to add it in column C, insert. If you're happy with your question as is, you can save it. It does require you to give the question a name and categorize it in low, medium, and high difficulty. We'll select OK. And then what you can do from here is preview your question if you want to make sure that the question is reading as you want it to. In addition, if you've made a question with variables within it, you have this new value so you can regenerate the question. And it will show you the different versions that are going to be generated. Since I'm just slightly over my time block, I do just want to very briefly mention that we do have the option to add in several tutor options. You can add your own custom hints and fully worked out solutions to any questions that you're creating. You can also add in a general explain error so that when students select explain error, when they're answering questions incorrectly, you have something for reference there. And you can build, similarly to what already exists for many of our questions, a step-by-step guide for your students to reference as a teachable tool within the practice mode of the platform. If you then wanted to go back and create additional questions, this Hawks Teach will take you back to the main page where you can then create additional questions to add to the folders that already exist by using this create option. That was a very brief overview. Again, we have some training webinars here and are always happy to host customized sessions with you. I do want to make sure that I'm answering the questions that have come through here. There is a question about nesting the folders. So the folders cannot be nested as in its current functionality. That's a great idea. If you have any additional feedback as to how you would envision this, just in the event that we might make additions to this in the future, you can feel free to chat that in as well to the Q&A. Just for additional feedback, because it would be helpful for us to know. But you can add in as many folders as you'd like here, so you can really get pretty customized with the question names and the folder names themselves. If there aren't any other questions, I want to thank everyone for attending today. I do just want to remind you that if you have additional questions that you didn't actually ask during this session, feel free to send those into your training and support representative, or if you need any additional assistance outside of this question builder training, or in addition to it, always feel free to reach out to us at training@hawkslearning.com. And I appreciate you attending. Thanks so much and have a great day.